what solidified the existence of these things for me was years later. I was 26 years old, and it's Christmas time, and I bought my grandfather a hardcover book called Mysteries of the World book. And by then I'd read a bunch of articles on these things, and there was a little bit of a seed in the back of my mind. I was curious about them because I knew what I saw. I knew what I saw wasn't a human being. There's no way it was a bear. And I knew what I saw, but I was very, very curious because not too many people spoke of these things. There's a few books on it, and that was about it. It's just a really weird thing to have in the back of your mind, a very weird experience to pack around in the back of your head and not really know much about the topic. So back to the story of my grandfather, is a better story than mine, and a very pivotal moment for me, because why I'm telling this story to everybody, to you guys, is this story is equivalent for you. If you were at home and the person in your lifetime right now who you trust with your life the most, that one person in this lifetime who you would never ever question or doubt them for one moment, if they came up to you and told you, looked you in the eye and were dead serious and told you, hey man, I saw this 8 foot tall, 600-700 pound thing looking at me in the forest, you would know they were telling you the truth, right? So, getting back to my grandfather's story, this is that story. This is my story of that happening. So it's Christmas time, bought him a book. Christmas dinner's over. Everybody's still sitting up in the dining room. I go back out in the living room. I grabbed his book off the coffee table, and I go straight to the SASQUATCH section to see if there might be anything in there I hadn't read before, or something new, maybe a new story I hadn't read. And so my grandfather, he's had enough. He's full of turkey. Whatever, he gets up, leaves the dining room. He comes in the living room with me, sits down on the couch beside me, and he's looking at the book in my hands. And you can see him at the SASQUATCH sections of his book. And he goes, so, do you believe in those things? He's like, do you believe in those things? I'm like, yeah, but 99.9% sure I've seen one. And I've been in numerous places now. You could probably hide a herd of elephants within view of frickin' Victoria, and nobody ever seen one if you didn't want them to. Yeah, I believe in them. And he looked me in the eye, and my grandfather's not a funny guy. He's not a comedian. He's not a attention seeker. He's just a true gentleman, matter-of-fact guy, very, very intelligent guy. And he goes, well, in that case, I have a story I'm going to share with you. I'm like, you want to get somebody's attention, have your grandfather tell you he wants to share a story with you about Sasquatch. No, I'm glued on him. And but it's funny, I noticed he looked up he looked towards everybody in the other room to make sure everybody was there and nobody else is going to hear him. The majority of people that have a story to share, they don't want the attention. They don't want to tell anybody out loud. It's kind of funny. I mean, let's face it, humans are wacko. Who gives a shit what they think, really, right? Clouds coming, so the lighting's going to change in this thing. And I got time to adjust it. It doesn't matter. So anyway, so he told me, he said, well, I have a story I'm going to share with you. And he said, I don't think I can tell you what it is I saw because I don't know what it is I saw. I can only tell you what happened. And by now, my eyeballs are as big as frickin' baseballs, because for me, you always question what you saw. You question these stories. You question this. You question that. You're uncertain. You question yourself. And then all of a sudden, the person you respect most in this entire lifetime is confirming it for you. It's absolute confirmation. For me, his word is solid as frickin' titanium. If that man says he saw what he saw it. And he saw it clearly. And there's nothing else, there's no other variation of that for me. And again, I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I don't give a shit what anybody watching this video thinks. It doesn't matter. So, he said he was timber cruising at the time for the government. He was close to the head of the San Juan River on Vancouver Island. And he said it was on the northeast side of the San Juan Valley. And if I recall, it was either Fleetwood or Floodwood Creek. You probably look it up, it's one of those two. And he said it was mid-July, smoking hot out, cruising, sunny afternoon, he's cruising through the timber, steep in the side of a mountain. And you know when you get through the timber and you come to a creek, you know, creeks is cut down through the forest for years, and there'll always be the forest floor and then that root overhang, and then the clay bank goes up underneath the root overhang and down to the creek bottom. He described that to me perfectly. And he said he had to crawl over the root overhang, drop down to that dirt bank, slid on his ass down to the bank, looks up, down creek, and he said to me, he said, I looked down the creek and this guy, this man is squatting over the river, over the creek. And I'm like, uh-huh. And he says, well, that man got up and took one look at me and took off running faster than any human being, every man could ever run. And he took 2 steps. My grandfather said this thing took 2 steps and shot itself over the root overhang and booked it through the timber. Took off. And he said, and that man, I thought, in the beginning he said, there's a man in a fur coat. He said there's a man in a fur coat squatting over the creek when I hit the bottom of the creek. And I looked at him, and he got up, took one look at me, and took 2 enormous jumps up that bank and over the root ball and took off. So at first my grandfather said it was a dude in a fur coat, and I'm like, oh shit, he's just telling a stupid hippie story about bumping into a hippie or something from Port Renfrew or whatever. But when he said that when the guy took off, he realized that the fur coat was actually part of this dude, and the hair was growing, the fur was growing from its body. And then I started grilling him and asking him all the regular questions. I'm like, okay, how big was this thing? And he goes, oh, I'd have to say he was around probably 8 feet tall. I'm like, no frickin' way. Like, I'm like, no way. For me, it was like, holy shit. That is what like everything is confirmed for me now, without a question about it. I knew I knew there was no way I was seeing things when that thing was right there looking at me at 15 yards, And he said that he really stressed about the size of his thighs. He said the legs, he said it was so powerfully built. It says very, very powerfully built. He remember saying that guy's legs were the size of my waist easily. He said he's never seen anybody move that fast ever in his life. He said there's no way a human being could do what that thing did. He said it took 2 massive jumping steps straight up that frickin' clay bank over the root ball, gone. And I said, well, and he said it was reddish brown hair or fur. He said whatever it was reddish brown head to toe, about 8 feet tall. And he says that guy was probably 500-600 pounds easily. And it took off. And I almost dumbfounded. I mean, think about it. My grandfather is telling me this shit. I'm 26 years old. In confident, just the 2 of us sitting there. He's not belting it out, that's for sure. Him right away. I go, why didn't you tell me this before? Like, why didn't you tell me this before? Why not? And the poor guy, he said flat out, he goes, yeah, if I told you I saw a 8 foot tall, 600 pound, hairy, naked guy in the woods, you'd never go fishing with me again. You'd think I was insane. I'm like, well, you thought wrong, And think about it back then. I mean, what's he going to do? He works for the government. What's he going to come home from being paid from the government and tell everybody he saw what he saw? He didn't tell anybody. He kept that in him and didn't share with anyone. What a sentence just to have to deal with that and not be able to tell anybody because you're terrified about what people think. How sad is that? That's frickin' nuts. It's funny when I asked him, I said, well, you must have been scared. Like, you must have been shitting yourself. Were you crapping your pants or what? And he's funny. He'd never say he was scared. He goes, well, I was very concerned. I'm like, what do you mean you were concerned? You must have been absolutely shitting yourself. And he goes, well, no, I was really, really concerned. I was very concerned. It's kind of funny. He would not say he was scared or terrified. He'd just say, I was really concerned. And I asked him, I go, which did he take off? Like, what did you do? He goes, I was pretty concerned for my well-being. He says, I got out of there as fast as I could. And I go, which way did it go? And he goes, unfortunately, it went the way that I came from. It took off in the same direction. I had to go back to get the truck. I'm like, oh my God, that must have sucked. You imagine seeing something like that and having to go back to safety the way it went? Poor man. And he never packed a gun. He never had a gun with him either. Never. Since my first encounter with these things, now years later, in thousands and thousands of remote miles later, on foot, bush plane, horseback, I think I've had maybe another half a dozen experiences with these things, and I'll tell those stories later. I've spoken with easily over 40 people now firsthand that had encounters with these things. Some of the stories are pretty crazy, and these are people that are where I've lived or come across through work, and the topic just came up, and they saw I was dead serious on the topic, and I didn't laugh or ridicule it, and they opened up and shared with me their encounters, and it's really something else. There's a lot of good ones. For myself personally, I was in a cabin one time that was getting slapped so hard at the top, at the outside of the back wall, it was shaking the stove pipe and the wood stove where the chimney came down attached to the wood stove. That whole thing was rattling. The cabin was getting hit so hard, and that was pretty unnerving. What else? I've got all sorts of goofy stories. I've heard them about 5 or 6 times. I found footprints. One time, a 2-day horseback ride, North Alaska Highway. We had an old cache, 4 trees with sheet metal wrapped around all 4 bases going up, 10 feet, and the cache is 14 feet in the air with a 4-foot overhang all the way around. And a squirrel couldn't even get on there. And there's a 100 and some odd pound wall tent was taken off of it and was way down there on the side of the river. Didn't even have a tooth mark in it, and everything was taken off. That was kind of weird. I got the pictures of that somewhere. I've got a bunch of goofy stories, and I'll share them later. I'll tell the stories as they were told to me from the people who I know and trust who shared the stories with me. I won't use their names, obviously. I don't want to have all the dumbasses and the idiots ridiculing and laughing at them. But getting back to that, there isn't a human being alive that can get me to change my stance in this topic or my stories, or say that I didn't see one of these things. There isn't a human being alive. If you were to put a gun to my head today and tell me to say these things don't exist, I'm going to tell you to kiss my ass and pull the trigger. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks. I'm definitely not here to prove anything to anyone. I mean, our society, on average, I won't even start going. When you're talking about a society that follows people like the Kardashians or whoever, there's not too many people out there that I'm too concerned about what they think is real or not, or what they believe in. Now, what do I think these beings are? I don't have the answers. Unfortunately, sadly, I'm pretty sure there is a whole pile of information, knowledge on these beings. Somebody's got it, and they're not sharing it, and I don't know why. You come up with a bunch of other various reasons why people aren't sharing the fact about these beings with the rest of the mainstream population. I don't know why. I haven't a clue why. I don't have the answers. I can't tell you exactly what these beings are. I just can't. Not too many people can. It's something that it's very, very, it's a topic. This is just a topic which is very, very difficult for any human being to wrap their brain around. Sadly, whoever is in control of the knowledge that we're allowed to have, and let's face it, the main population only has access to knowledge that we're allowed to have. And that's a fact. Whoever's withholding this solid information, facts, I don't know why they are. I haven't a clue. And I definitely don't waste too much time of life or sleep over it. Life is too much fun. There's too many great things out there to be done and experienced to let yourself waste too much time and effort where it's not going to make much of a difference. But there you go. It's a crazy topic. It's one that's been with me for over 30 years. I can't get out of it. It's something that I've been aware of for over 30 years. I accept the fact these things exist. I know there's nothing I can do about it to change it. It's just the way it is. I understand and accept that there is a pile of people out there who can't wrap their head around this topic. They don't want to. They want it to go away. There's thousands of people who have seen these things. There's thousands of people with the knowledge that is available. There is thousands of people out there who have firsthand knowledge, and they know, you know what I'm talking about, and I know you're watching me right now. And it's just the way it is. You know, I actually feel, I think the biggest, the most strange part for me now, the most unexplainable part for me now, it's not the fact these things exist. If that's easy. I've accepted that and put it over there. Whatever. It's just a part of life. But what's amazing to me now, I'm more amazed at watching humans, to be honest. I'm more absolutely amazed and taken back by how humans conduct and take themselves through this lifetime. Especially, I mean, when you got to think about it, it's the human. I think the human ego is the major problem. You know, imagine the human mind, your average human brain just cannot accept the fact that we don't know everything. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing that there's actually numerous brains out there, human brains, that think we know everything? That's pretty funny. That's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible for me to actually watch and observe those brains at work and listen to them. It's like, wow, what the hell happened to you? You know, or what are you missing? Because we don't know everything, and that is a fact. And it's very amazing to me as well. It's also a little hard for me to understand how there's a lot of brains out there. They'll hear me talking about this topic right now and they'll go, what? What are you, an idiot? I can't believe this shit. And that's the reaction to somebody talking about this topic. Their reaction isn't, what? You what? No way. Well, tell me about this. You know, not too many people's brain reacts that way of going, oh, wow, really? There's something I don't know about? And you got the knowledge on it? Oh, will you fill me in on this? I want to hear about this. Or they react by going, what? You what? Oh, you're serious? Oh, no way. Oh, tell me all about it. I want to hear about this. What? Are you serious? You know, people react that way. And then there's a lot of people out there that'll get angry. It instantly angers them and upsets them. And they show it. You know, I feel like, you know, for me, if I'm online or whatever in a room full of people and somebody said they saw something in the ocean that looked like a dinosaur and it had a 10-foot long neck and a head on it like a brontosaurus, I would be going, holy shit, no way. When did you see this? Really? What was it like? I wouldn't get angry and go, you what? I can't believe I'm hearing this shit. What are you, an idiot? You know, isn't that a weird way for somebody to react? Think about it. Be like, whoa, hey, take it easy, Skippy. What is it about this that's making you angry? Is it your lack of knowledge or is it your fright of the knowledge? You know, I don't know what it is. I can't explain human beings. I can't explain how or why people react and think the way they do, but I think it is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to watch people and observe them. You know, as an example of how I've come across, as an example of how common it is for people to not be able to wrap their heads around this. You know, I always use one of my best friends. I use an example. Great guy, first responder, got a few kids, shit together, past hunting guide, trusts me to take care of his children. I've been hunting with him dozens of times. He knows my professional background in both hunting and fishing. And I will say to him, this is an example of how some people's brains can't take this topic on. And I will say, hey, yeah, I went halibut fishing today, and we had about a 270-pound frickin' halibut to the side of the boat. I'm not kidding you. It was right beside the boat. We saw it. We lost it. You would know I saw a 275-pound halibut, right? And you go, yeah, of course. You've been halibut fishing for frickin' all your life. Yeah, of course. Why would I question that? Okay? Same person. Okay, so I was out deer hunting, and you're not going to believe this, dude. I saw about a 26-inch wide, 7x8 blacktail buck with 6.5-inch bases staring at me from 32 yards. Seeing it, didn't get the shot off. Isn't that amazing? You'd be like, no way. You know I saw that, right? Yeah, of course he did. You've got tons of blacktail bucks. Of course, if you told me you saw that, of course he did. Why would you make it up? Okay, same person. I was hiking down a trail one time, and there was this thing on a rock looking at me. It was possibly around 500 to 700 pounds. It wasn't a human being. And he goes, instant reaction. I'd have to see one of those to believe it myself. Right? It is what it is. It just is what it is. None of us are better or less than each other. Some of us react to different topics differently. Some of us are curious, some of us aren't. Some of us get scared very easy, some of us don't. Some of us are very, very insecure, and some of us aren't. That's just the way it is. So, me, whatever, is what it is. That's what I saw. I seen one another time years later. I've had 1, 2, 3. I've heard 3. I've been in a cabin that was getting beat up by something really bad. I made a stand in the woods years ago out of 2x10s on edge with 5/8 lag bolts, 8-inch lag bolts, hand cranked into the side of huge first growth fir cedar trees with 2x8s on edge sitting in joist hangers with 1/2-inch plywood screwed down on top of those. And I made a stand in this huge, dark, creepy swamp years ago. And that sucker got pulled. The 2x10s got pulled off. You could see where everything was torqued out. The plywood sheets were tore off, and one of them was standing up on edge between 2 alder trees. You go like this, about 10 yards that way. Yeah, that's another story. But anyway, so there you go. There's my 2 easy stories I'm going to tell. And I have some real good stories relayed to me from close friends, past girlfriends, friends' parents, loggers, fishermen, conservation officer, fisheries cops. And I will tell those stories here on my YouTube channel later on when I get time. So anyway, lots of you have been hammering on me about talking about Bigfoot and Sasquatch. And yeah, of course I've got stories on the damn things. They're out here, and I'm out here all the time too. I've spent more times in the woods than I haven't. I've spent more times in remote areas than I haven't. And it's just the way it is. What's the most recent stories I've heard? What is it now? We're at the end of March. 1 month ago, a friend of mine who owns a fishing lodge in Cayucot, remote location on the west coast of Vancouver Island, 2 of his native guides were pit lamping for deer, elk, whatever they're doing, 1 month ago. And he phoned me right away to tell me that they had phoned him freaking out because they noticed a set of eyes shining back in the lamp they were holding, and they said they were really wide, only 50 yards away, and they got both, I guess they had 2 spotlights, both of them put the spotlights in this thing, these native guys, and it was between Gold River and Zavalis, and this thing, they said it was about a 9-foot tall Sasquatch, and it started screaming at them and ripping these alder trees to shreds. And they were absolutely terrified.